Hello, and thanks for joining me at HAR Legal Corner. Let's talk about earnest money and contracts. Oftentimes, earnest money is misunderstood. First of all, earnest money is not the consideration for a real estate sales contract. That is to say, earnest money does not make the contract a binding agreement. Instead, it is the mutual promise to buy and sell by the seller and the buyer, which makes the contract a binding agreement. So earnest money does not make a contract. However, the agreement of a buyer to tender earnest money is a condition of the contract. So if the buyer should fail to tender the earnest money, that would result in a breach of the contract, meaning the seller could terminate the contract for buyer's breach. Brokers and agents should always be certain their buyer timely tenders the earnest money called for by the contract. But what about when the buyer and the seller part ways for whatever reason and they both claim the earnest money? Well, if they both claim the earnest money, that should mean the contract is terminated and the only dispute is over earnest money, as opposed to some claimed right or obligation of one party to either sell or buy the property. Specific performance. In the case of a pure dispute over the earnest money, the seller can put the home back on the market and attempt to procure another buyer. But be wary of fighting for earnest money if your claim for the earnest money is wrongly asserted or you wrongfully refuse to sign a release of earnest money acceptable to the title company. Paragraph 18 of the TREC contract say any party who wrongfully fails or refuses to sign a release of earnest money will be liable to the other party for liquidated damages equal to the sum of 3 times the amount of the earnest money itself, reasonable attorney's fees, and all costs of suit. Obviously, fighting over earnest money is a fight you want to pick very carefully, so there's no misunderstanding of the downside. Earnest money, often misunderstood and potentially dangerous if not handled properly. That's all for now. See you next time at HAR Legal Corner.